That was really great, Nancy. Oh, I'm so excited today because I have Nancy Heslin to talk to, and she is
Thank you, Mike.
terrific. Oh, whoa. Hello, Nancy.
I'm just going to jump right in.
Well, that's fine.
I have
That's what
this
I
terrible
expect of
habit.
Nancy. And Nancy is one heck of a sportswoman, and she's one heck of a journalist. And now she's got a publishing company. But we'll talk about that later. So it's hello, Nancy, and
Oh, Mike. Hi, Mike.
that's brilliant. Anyhow, well, first things first, how did you end up in the south of France? We love it, it's beautiful and everything, but how did you arrive here? What made you come from deepest, darkest Canada to sunny
Mm.
south of France?
I think you just answered that question. Dark Canada, sunny France. Um, well, it's funny because I came here 25 years ago, and most people come to this part of the world as a couple. And I actually came leaving my first husband. And so kind of came with a suitcase, not much of a plan. And it's one of those things in life, if you look back, I don't know how you got here, Mike, and what the story is, but you look back and you think, if I knew how hard it would have been to come here, especially as Canadians, you're not part of the EU, especially for working. I'm not sure I would have known to come here, but because I was so messed up emotionally, it just seemed like, yeah, I'll just go to the south of France and I just turned, I think, 30 or something like that. And I thought, oh, it'll be like Sex in the City. And it was like the 10 loneliest years of my life, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I found it really hard to integrate here.
So why? What particular thing about the south of France made it difficult? You spoke French at the time of arrival or not?
Yeah. I mean, Canada's quite bilingual.
Yeah.
So I had also pursued, there used to be a Canadian university in Villefranche. It was, well, to translate it, it was the Université Canadienne en France. And you could, as a Canadian, it would count towards your university degree. And so I came here and I did, sorry, I've got stuff beeping. I got to remember to turn things off here. So I came here and did studies, and I was like, I'd really love to live in this part of the world, but I didn't want to be a yachty or thing. Like I wanted to use my brain. But again, as a Canadian, it's very difficult at the time to work here. But I already had it in me. I came here, brokenhearted, packed my heart in a suitcase, came. And I think what I wasn't anticipating was most people that come here are couples. I didn't have children, so I didn't have the children to allow me to meet other people. And the thing that I learned is that if you are a single, especially then, you were never invited out with other couples.
Oh, that's very true. That's an interesting, yeah, that's very
And
true.
if you'll permit me, I'll tell you a little anecdote about
Please
the
do.
woman that used to wax my legs when I first moved here. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, as a Canadian, you just go and talk to people like, hi, how's it going? A guy you see is kind of reasonably good looking. Maybe there's a chance, but you go up and talk to him. And she said to me, Nancy, I'm going to tell you a little story. I was like, okay. And she was probably, in her early 20s at the time, a little business person. And she said, Nancy, if my best friend calls me in the middle of the night and she said, my husband and I have just split up, I would say, oh, that's terrible. I would drive over to her house. I would pick her up. I would give her a hug and I'd cry with her. And then I'd drive her to a hotel because there's no way she's staying with me and my husband as a single person. I was like, what? And she's like, that's how women see other single women. And I'm like, but that would be your best friend. Like, you couldn't possibly think she's going to hit on your husband. She's like, oh, no, I would. So,
Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly what does happen, unfortunately.
yeah. So
For
now I understand it. But back then I was so puzzled and naive. Like, what do you mean by that? So, yeah.
that's
So,
intriguing. It's a difference in culture, a complete difference in culture.
yeah. And on the opposite side of that, I had the opportunity. I mean, it was really a once in a lifetime shot. The Riviera Reporter magazine, which was one of the very first English language magazines, right when I came here, had an opportunity for an opening to work there. And that was like my first real job. And by doing that, I knew so many people in the Riviera by email. I never met them. So I had like a very rich life and knowing the people that were here and writing stories about them and editing stories about them. But my personal life, I could not seem to make friends.
No, that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
Mm.
We move on to your fantastic podcast, which is Nancy and PJ finally get together, which is now got
Yay.
100,000 downloads.
Yay.
Fantastic. 60 episodes plus. And
Yeah.
well, that's incredible. What gave you the idea to start that?
So my husband and I have a very long love story that we met 35 years ago. We met at a French immersion program in Quebec in 1990, and we didn't know each other. We felt ridiculously in love. And I always say this. I don't know if people ever really understand what I mean by that, but like your whole world is flipped upside down because you love someone that much right away. And we were young, 21, 25 at the time. And, I wanted to still come to France, to Villefranche to study. And we kind of just ended up breaking up all the time over 10 years. He proposed, I said no. And then it was just boomerang, boomerang. But the weird thing is that by fluke, the day we met, I had started a journal because we were starting a French immersion program and I wanted to write in French, which was when I look at it now is, I mean, a grade two could write better than I could in French, but I started these journals and the journals start from 1999 and they go from 2000 to 2010, the year we got married, not with the intention that there's a story there, but that's how long it took us before we could make our relationship work and work it out. And I had this idea because every time I would say to him, like we didn't talk for years and years, like really there was, I think 7 years we didn't communicate at all, but we kind of lived in each other's brains. And when we finally got together 20 years later, we realized we had a very different version of who was right and who was wrong. And I realized, oh, I have these journals. So I started reading my journals and I thought it would be incredible to do a book where it's the story and then it's your footnotes going, no, 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 that's not what happened. Because every relationship, right? I mean, every relationship, you have two different interpretations of what the deal is or how you even met. So we did this book and we wanted, we are, oh, yeah, yeah, we'll write it, we'll get it published, it'll be easy. The book was quite easy to write because it's based on notes. It was lots of fun. We co-wrote it without knowing what the other person wrote. So the story really works well. But one of the things is that we're terrible. And if you look at my social media, I don't know how to market anything. I think I'm really talented in writing, but I'm not a gifted social media person by any means, unfortunately. And so our agent said, you need to kind of come up with something to market this thing. So we started, Nancy and PJ finally got together the podcast, and it starts at the beginning where we meet. And at the end of every episode, we read something from my diary, which is hugely embarrassing, but we're now in it. Like it's 2.5 years in it and it's fun.
And it's hugely entertaining. So anybody should be listening because they are great when you just sort of
Oh,
sit
thank you.
there. Well, just plug the earphones in and just have a little listen, and you're guaranteed a laugh as well.
Well,
So,
I appreciate that. But my husband was a former stand-up comic.
yeah.
And in the years that we were together, I never thought he was funny. Like I would go and see him live, or it was tiring because he was always like, I'm so funny. And then once we started doing the podcast, I realized what that skill was. Like he can really produce on the podcast. He comes up with these voices, or he's just so spontaneous with this humor. Like I really respect what all of that process was for him. And as a couple, it's kind of like therapy because we have a very small apartment. We don't have a big studio. And the only way we can produce it, which we do ourselves, is to talk into our clothes closet. So we don't even see each other. We're each talking into like block the echo.
Okay.
And yeah, yeah,
Okay. Oh, it's
yeah.
fascinating, but it is highly entertaining. And I
Thanks,
do
Mike.
like, and you have 60 differences of opinion,
Every day.
120 views.
Yeah,
Okay, brilliant.
yeah.
Well, let's turn on to another great success. You actually now have a publishing company. And what can you tell me about that? Because it's women based, isn't it?
Yeah. Um, what can I tell you about that? The actual publishing house is secondary to a book that we brought out. I don't know if you watch Netflix, but right now on Netflix, there's this series, a documentary called F1 Academy. And it's kind of the women's version of Drive to Survive of Formula One. And the woman that runs the F1 Academy is a Monaco resident. And almost 2 years ago to the date, I was having coffee with her and some other women in motorsport in Monaco. And they were talking about this idea of how do you engage young people in careers in motorsport? Because are you a fan, Mike, of Formula One? Do you watch Formula
I,
One?
I was a fan. I just find it a little bit too much whizzy and not exciting enough these days, and that
All
sounds
right.
terribly awful. But uh,
No, but
I
there's a $1 billion business there. Like if you want
huge.
a job, you could get a job in that. And that was what these women were really trying to say is that, you know, and so from that coffee, I thought, well, I'm not in I don't drive. I don't even drive. I don't have a car. I'm against cars. But I thought, how could I contribute to an event that's supposed to engage young people? And I had this idea as a journalist. What if I wrote a book about different history or something to engage young people to say, hey, I could do that? And so I called my girlfriend, who I'm always talking to about crazy ideas. But for some reason, this one, she said, let's do it. Because I have a daughter in Monaco. I want her to be inspired. But she said, if we do it, we need to open a publishing house. I was like, okay, which, anyway, so yes, we the long and short of it is we opened a publishing house in March 2024, and we brought out our first book, 100 Years of Women Motorsport in Monaco, in January this year. And we're the only 100% female owned publishing house. And when I say that, I mean that we're middle class. It's her money and my money. We don't have big backers or family money. We really want to give women an opportunity to have their voice and to publish their stories.
Yeah, that exciting. And the other thing that you're really into is sport. You love your sport. You're both you and PJ
And eating and eating.
and eating. Well,
It's a fine line.
I can do the eating bit, but the sport bit of
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see your photos where you're eating every time in the port. I'm like, oh my God, that looks so good, Mike. That looks good.
yes, but I pay the penalty. So
Yeah.
you do enjoy quite I would say not extreme sports, but you like power sports, if you like, rowing and things like that. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really, I think it's stuff to do with water.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's not a lot of gyms in Monaco. So I moved from Nice to Monaco, I think 5 or 6 years ago. And the only club, and I don't know if this is still true. I mean, there's Club 39, but it's a private sports club, and there's World Fitness, but it's really, really, really expensive monthly.
Hmm.
And so I was a bit out of sorts, and I thought, like, what could I do? And I was told about the Monaco Rowing Club, because it has a really unbelievable group of masters, like people over 40, I guess, rowing there, especially women. And it was really nice because I always joke, like when you would go into a club, a sports club, like, and this truly happened to me where I've walked in and, two women are standing looking at their asses in the mirror going, tu as une jolie fesse? Non, c'est toi qui as la jolie fesse. Non, c'est toi. And I'm like, this can't be fitness. This club is just women like me. We're not Botox. We're just kind of who we are, accepting that. And we go out rowing. And a couple of years ago, we won the French championship, but it costs 250 euros a year to join the club. And you have access to a club. And that's one of the most affordable things in Monaco. And you get out, as soon as you leave the port, there's dolphins. And we've had dolphins stay with us like for kilometers
Wow.
under the boat, flipping around. So like that side of it for me is beautiful. And then swim running. I just was asked to be the president of the Swim Run Association. And again, I'm not an extreme sports person, but I think it's more to build community. Like that, some of them are doing that. But I worked with the Swedish founders of the sport in swim run for years, and it's very community based. And I'm really everything I do is community. So yeah, you can come with us, Mike. Some of the swim runs are quite little.
Oh,
No answer.
no, I hate to refuse a nice offer, but
How
that's
about rowing? We'll put you in the rowboat.
that's a good idea. Can tow me along behind.
Yeah, yeah. You would love it. It's so beautiful, and it's a great way to see the coast as well.
Well, the other thing is you do an awful lot of journalism and you are doing other podcasts from some really interesting people in Monaco. Do you see this as being your future?
I hope so. I'm really grateful for all the opportunities I've had, especially lately, because I seem to have fallen in times where things are just happening in English language platforms. So, I went from the Riviera reporter for 15 years, and Forbes Monaco opened. So I was able to take over Forbes Monaco and now the Monegasque. And after 25 years, I'd like to use my voice differently instead of writing and editing. And I had the opportunity with Monaco Info. They've launched a new English series of podcasts and they asked me to host it. And it's truly, I mean, those, it's not because the people are Monaco based that makes it fascinating. It's that they're very open to speaking and they're very international, a lot of the people in Monaco. So that is amazing. And Riviera Radio has brought me on to do this new program called What's New in Monaco. And so it's really fun because it's stuff that I can't really have stuff that's in the news. And I, try to find all these things. And you just discover these amazing people that you can share with our community. Again, if I could, I would open a podcast recording studio, help people get podcasts out, use the voice, because I think it's a really exciting way to tell stories. And I love telling stories, other people's stories. I'd love to tell other people's stories.
But your own story, you tell it well as well. So
Yeah, but sometimes I'll be honest with you. Like I realize that lately, there's been a lot of things that like the Monaco Info and Riviera Radio and the Monegasque, but these are projects that have been in the works for like 5 years. It's not that all of a sudden I just went up and said, hey, do you have anything? And sometimes I feel very self-conscious about the fact that I do have all these opportunities that, maybe other people, I should be sharing them instead and saying, no, like this person would be better. But, there's not a lot here. And I just have to keep building my name. But I'm aware of how that might come across.
no, I've just seen how you've grown. Well,
Oh, thank you.
always good. But what I'm saying is that you seem to have expanded your horizon immensely. And it's gratifying to see that you can build and grow in somewhere as, I guess, as sort of contained as Monaco. But as you say, there is so much there if you just peek under the surface. Uh,
Mm,
so many interesting people. I mean, you just
yeah,
get the
really.
street, there's somebody interesting to talk to. So,
Yeah, and the other thing, and I'm sure you know this because you've been here a long time and doing like you also are somebody that's very multitasked in terms of what you do creatively. And I love that. Like I love reading your posts because you're writing or you're directing or you're doing interviews or you're taking photos. And I love reading that about you. You realize that you can live here, but our creativity needs to be fed. We can't stay in one lane,
yeah.
right? And being a trustworthy person and a loyal person is really what makes the difference here. And I realized, like, I know a lot of stories in Monaco, but I can't talk about them. And people trust me with that, and I'm sure it's the same for you. People have to trust you to even do these kinds of podcasts.
Well, I hope so.
I'll do a survey after Mike and see what people say. Do you trust Mike? What's the story? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I think now is the time to sort of say, well, thank you so much, Nancy. It's been an absolute delight. I'll post the links that you send me. And once again, I'm so thankful that you joined me for this chat. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I think we could have spent a lot of more time chatting, but maybe
yeah.
another time. Maybe some of those secret stories would be handy.
Well, I will see, Mike. We'll see. But also, people should be checking out the stuff that you write and your books because you are super creative, and there's not a lot of people down in this part, so you deserve the support of everyone.
Oh, you're so kind. Well, likewise.
Thank you. Thanks,
Anyway,
Mike. I really appreciate it for inviting me on.
right. So what we do now, while I'm looking for the off button, which I go and look for, is smile to the camera. And once again, I'll say thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.